Today, we actually get to sit down with Timothy White, celebrity photographer and partner of the Morrison Hotel Gallery. Now, if you don't know Timothy White, you definitely know his work. He has photographed some of the most famous people in pop culture. James Brown, Guns N' Roses, Whoopi Goldberg, the list goes on. And today he's actually going to talk about which hotel in West Hollywood inspired not only him creatively, but also quite a bit of his career.
Yeah, I'm really excited to have Timothy White on. He's really an icon in rock and roll photography. He has shot iconic album covers, billboards on the Sunset Strip. He's really a fascinating guy, and he's going to talk to us all about what inspired him, how he got into this, and who he has really been inspired by.
It's exciting. So let's dive in. Timothy.
Yes.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you.
Thank you so much for joining us. So I'm excited to have this conversation because you've got quite a storied career. But for context, for those that are tuning in and, you know, maybe discovering a bit more of your work or putting two and two together, that they know your work and you are the man behind that. Would love to hear a little bit more about your career. Where were you raised and how did you end up here in West Hollywood?
I was born in New Jersey. I started, I don't know. I mean, I got involved in photography somehow.
Wait, were you young when you got started?
Yeah, I mean, I played around in high school a little bit with it, but it really, like, not seriously. It wasn't like about the camera or the darkroom or anything like that. It was more just kind of taking funny pictures. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. It just, and then I went to college for landscape architecture, and I found out it was like all this math and science, and I was
And
like,
you were
this
like,
is not, no, this is not me. And I was doing photography at that point, and photography kind of really changed as an art form, got appreciated in a different way around that time, and I got really interested in it. And I applied to transfer out of school because I was in Arizona, and I transferred to the Rhode Island School of Design and studied photography.
Amazing.
And then from there, moved to New York and like opened up a studio
And you did a
one
bit
thing
of
led to
travel
another.
photography first, right?
Yeah,
But then you were like, wait, I really want to do more like music and Hollywood. Is that right?
I mean, I started in college, like shooting modeling schools and modeling agencies in this gig. Like most everybody else was trying to figure out what they were doing in art school, and I was already hustling and
I
learning.
love that.
And then I moved to New York, and just kind of one thing led to another, and met some people who were from South America, some artists, and started working with them and taking pictures. And I was traveling, and I was like, this is amazing, but this isn't really me. And it was more music and Hollywood that interested me.
Yeah.
Yeah, and one thing led to another.
Do you remember, was there a particular image that you shot that kind of like helped get you into the whole music scene?
Well, I started, so I left college and I opened up a studio in New York with a couple of friends and had no idea what we were doing.
Yeah.
And I would shoot anything, dog portraits or like whatever it was, real estate, like just to make a living.
There's a market for that.
Yeah, I guess. In fact, I probably should have stayed with it. But I don't know. I just started shooting bands and friends who were in bands and things like that, thinking like, this is where I belong in this area.
Yeah.
And then, I don't know, things started to click, and I was also traveling to South America with these artists and doing those pictures, and I showed those pictures to Rolling Stone magazine, and they hired me right away.
That's
based
amazing.
on that stuff, which was really great for me, and it made me feel like I was on the right track.
Were those photos of someone notable that you shared with Rolling Stone
No,
from the start? That was just something else?
I was in.
That's cool.
I remember I was in Venezuela and Colombia, and I was just shooting everybody, like in town, like just doing portraits of people, some kids, parents, the priest, the hookers, like whoever was in town.
I love it.
I would do these portraits, and I put together this body of work, and it kind of showed, I guess, something that they responded to. I mean, at that time, I was also shooting musicians and doing other things, but when they saw that, I think they saw it at another level and was like, well, if he can do that kind of picture with musicians, then let's give him a try.
That's incredible. So then I love kind of like bringing this back into the whole West Hollywood. Do you remember your first shoot in West Hollywood?
Well, I mean, I remember.
I know.
It's interesting.
I know. That's a weird question, but.
At the time, okay, so I started shooting for Rolling Stone, and like within a year, I had a cover contract. So my career
Amazing.
really ramped up really quickly. Between like 86 and 88, it went crazy. And so by 88, I was shooting for the magazine, but I didn't have a contract yet. But I started shooting for the magazine and doing what they'd call the random notes section, and there were small images, and it was Hollywood people.
Yeah.
So I started doing some of that and coming back and forth, and then my travel agent, who was well connected with the Sunset Marquis here in town and represented Bruce Springsteen and Billy Joel and all these other people that I was working with, said, well, if you're going to go to LA, you should stay at the Sunset Marquis Hotel. And so I went, and that sort of changed things because I saw something really different. I saw Hollywood in a different way. I saw that hotel, which has this sort of music pedigree. And then my subjects were there. So I started to stay there. And then there was an airline, which is now Continental. Are they still around?
Yeah, Continental was an
so
airline.
At the time, it was something else. And they had $99 flights to LA. And I was like, well, I want to do this. So I'm going to go out there by myself. And I started taking these plane flights for $100 to LA. And I was just like a little pup, and I would go knock on every door, and I'd get mailing lists in the movie studios and the record companies, and I would go around and say, hey, it's like me, fabulous, like come hire me. And eventually, one thing led to another.
So I have a question. Already, the Sunset Marquis was hosting these celebs and these music celebrities. At that point, they're celebrating their 60th anniversary this year of the hotel overall. So how deep into it was the Sunset Marquis at that point? Like what year was that?
Well, I mean, this was like 85, 86.
Yeah.
So it was just starting for me, but they were, they opened in 63.
Right.
And the hotel, I mean, I got to know, it's still privately owned, and I know the owners really well. So I kind of know the story behind the hotel and the whole family and sort of the basis of how it started and all of that. And so initially it was about celebrity. It was about trying to build a hotel that people would come to who were in the business.
Right. And it makes sense because it's tucked away, yet still.
Oh yeah, I mean it's right off the Sunset Strip, but yet it's like this oasis, you know. But so to answer your question, I guess it was already musically popular. I mean, the 70s, a lot was going on there way before I was there.
Yeah, the Sunset Marquis really has that in its DNA.
Oh,
I guess, right from the very beginning. Because you were telling an interesting story about it from Hugh Hefner and the Playboy Club, right? The beginnings.
So George Rosenthal, who built it, was very involved in real estate and other things in West Hollywood, and Hugh Hefner was talking about building a hotel in LA at that point. This is 63 when they opened, so it was like Playboy opened in 57, so it's only been like a few years. And he just picked up the phone and got in touch with Hugh Hefner and said, well, if you're going to do this, let's do this together. Like, I know West Hollywood, and let's build a hotel in West Hollywood. And he talked about the laws and ordinances and things in West Hollywood, which were a little bit looser than the rest of LA.
Sure.
And so they befriended each other. And then George opened up the Sunset Marquis, and from the beginning, it was a place for people to come and stay who were in the business.
Totally. And what's so interesting, I mean, you've had the opportunity to shoot some of the most iconic individuals from the music industry to entertainment, and then also kind of right here in our own backyard. I think you've got a photo of Guns N' Roses that you did, and I believe that was taken here in West Hollywood.
In West Hollywood on Santa Monica Boulevard.
Fun story about that experience?
Well, I mean, it was 1988. Again, I was a puppy, my career was really just taking off, and it was a great opportunity from Rolling Stone to have me do this, another assignment for them, even though the pictures were small. It wasn't covers or big stories. And they said, want to shoot this band Rolling Stone? Guns N' Roses. And because I was in West Hollywood and in LA a lot, I kind of knew who they were and what was happening. But they really hadn't broken yet.
Which is cool.
So I had this spot that I kept seeing down on Santa Monica Boulevard. There's a liquor store, and it had all these neon signs out in front. And I was like, oh, it's colorful. I don't know. Would be great for Rolling Stone. So I had the guys meet me on the corner, and we did these pictures, and that ran small in the magazine. And then within 6 months, their album broke big, and they had a Rolling Stone cover. And at that point, I had advanced considerably with Rolling Stone as well, and they had me do the cover for them as well. So 6 months later, that was pretty quick for a band.
That's a very quick turnaround.
Yeah, to go from your first picture in the magazine to the cover. Yeah,
that's huge. So, have there been any times? Obviously, it's like this is what you do. But have there been any times that maybe you were, a little bit nervous to going into a shoot? I know it's a strange question, but like
every shoot. Even today.
Yeah.
I mean, I have butterflies.
Yeah. Oh, I like that.
But I don't know. It's probably the way I was brought up or something.
Yeah.
You know, I had like a confidence that I could do it. I had to.
Exactly.
You know, and I think that helped build my career. I mean, inside, I was definitely nervous all the time.
Well, of course, I mean, because you just want to make sure the whole production of it goes well as well. There's a lot of moving parts, but also personalities.
Yeah, and building a career and all that too. I wanted to, every time out, you want to do better and better and kind of direct your career creatively a certain way.
Yeah.
But I'm from New Jersey, so I had like a Jersey attitude.
Yeah, but which is good though, because
I mean, it worked for me. I mean, it really did, and it was like a confidence that I could be with anybody. And I mean, to this day, I think about things that I've done and who I've worked with, and that I was able to, because I was so intent on doing what I wanted to do. Once I clicked in, once adrenaline started going, I would direct Al Pacino, to do something, and
which is amazing.
Then I'd sit back and go, God, I just did that, and he did whatever I wanted to do, and it has to do with how we relate to each other.
Exactly. I mean, everybody has different personalities that they're bringing to the table, regardless of who they are. I mean, at the end of the day, everybody's just a person. Do you sort of feel like you would tap into, just gauge how they were coming across, and then maybe try to pull out something different, or?
I totally read people.
Yeah.
That's what I'm good at. And so, I made a comment the other day about just being more of a psychologist than a photographer, because that really my thing was about connecting on some level. But I really think that there was this confidence that, whether false or not, worked for me.
Yeah.
Especially with people who are used to being doted after and being in control and having power. And somebody walks on a set, and it's usually a photographer, and they're just like grabbing their picture. And instead, no, I had to direct them, because I wasn't the kind of photographer that took pictures, I made pictures. So it was different.
Oh, I love
and
that.
So I had to get, what I came to get, and I had to please myself. I had to please the studio. I had to please the agents. I had to please the talent. I had to please everybody at the same time. But I had to come back with what I knew I wanted, because that was going to further my career.
Yeah. Oh, of course.
And make art and, do something that was different.
And even pull out a different side of people, I think, too.
Yeah, I mean, the reaction, something we talk about all the time, and I think I was talking about it this week with someone about, photography is an illusion. It's not a truth. The only truth is my opinion, and my opinion is the editorial decisions I make to make that picture. Whether it be the fraction of a second I push the shutter, that's an editorial decision. The type of the coloring, the lighting, the lens, the distance, whatever it is, the choices that I make along the way is the only truthful part of a photograph, and it's really subjective, and it's my subjectivity.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah.
So it's not necessarily an accurate portrait. It's an image of somebody. I'm creating an image of somebody. It's not who they are. It's a piece of who they are through my eyes.
Yeah, I think that's actually really well put. I mean, again, it's like, and you're capturing that moment in the most authentic way as possible, but also
but it's an illusion. I mean, the lighting, every choice, changes it. I can make, people always say, "Oh, I don't look good in photographs," but no, I can make you look ugly, or I can make you look beautiful in photographs. Anybody, because that's the nature of the tools that are at my disposal and the nature of the medium.
Yeah. So, bringing it back to kind of West Hollywood, I mean, it's obviously your career it's been such a monumental part, I think, of your career, as far as like you found yourself like at this home and this sort of hub here. And that it is also this hub to the music and entertainment industry as well. It kind of goes hand in hand with the nature of your work. So how do you feel that kind of like, how has your career sort of been influenced by West Hollywood, or been inspired by it? Or
Well, certainly by the Sunset Marquis Hotel. I
mean,
I've spent my life there. It's really interesting. I look back now and go, I can't believe it. I can't believe how many years it's been. But it became my home. It became my identity. It still is. When I moved here eventually, I was like, what would it have been like if I didn't have the Sunset Marquis? Because it's my base in so many ways. Because my clients stay there, my subjects stay there. It became, because of my relationship with the owners and with the staff of the hotel, and my sense of freedom at the hotel, I could walk around and feel really comfortable there.
Yeah.
And that gave me a home in a way, professionally as well as literally a home.
Yeah.
Because when I moved here, I lived in the hotel for a year and a half,
which is incredible. So so you ended up moving your studio here, and I'd love to hear a little bit more, about the Sunset Marquis. But I think this is really unique because first of all, not all hotels have this, but unique to the Sunset Marquis, they've got the Morrison Hotel Gallery.
Right.
So, and you are one of the partners of that.
Right.
How did that come about?
Well, again, this is many, many years of coming back and forth here and being super comfortable there because I stayed there all the time. I mean, at one point I had an old car. I had a 67 Cadillac. I used to keep it in the garage at the Sunset Marquis, and then I'd go back to New York. And so I lived in New York, but all my work was LA. So it was sort of like being on vacation. They flew me like every other week to come back out here. My assistants and we'd stay at a hotel, and I'd stay a couple of days around the pool after my shoot.
Amazing.
And it was kind of a great, bi-coastal life.
That's really great.
In a big way for a long time. So anyway, and then I started with this gallery in New York. It was opened 22 years ago in New York, called the Morrison Hotel Gallery. And it's named that because my partner, Henry Diltz, who's a photographer who is also a very important part of West Hollywood, because Henry really documented the Laurel Canyon music scene from like 65 to 75. I mean, he's the guy. He really did it. And he shot the Doors Morrison Hotel album cover. And so he and another partner of ours, Peter Blotchley, who was an executive at Capitol Records for many years, they got together and did a pop-up in New York, and they put Henry's Doors Morrison Hotel image in the window. And it was a very successful pop-up. And they were like, oh, well, this is great, but we can't just do a pop-up. It's got to be like we got to get more photographers and make it a real gallery if it's going to be this successful. And they said, well, what do we call it? And they looked in the window, and there was the picture of the Doors Morrison Hotel album cover. And it was, the writing Morrison Hotel is on a window, and it just sort of made sense. And it graphically, it really worked.
Yeah.
And so that's how the hotel, that's how the gallery got its name. And then I became one of the first photographers. And then I was a photographer for, I don't know, maybe 10 years with the gallery before I became a partner. And I started to do things to help them curate, bring in other photographers, things like that. And they said, why don't you be a partner? And I was like, well, I don't know. And then I was out here at the hotel, and I was like, if we opened one in this hotel, it would really make sense. It would really work.
Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it would be so symbiotic with the pedigree, with the history of this hotel, the DNA of the hotel. And so I pulled George and Mark Rosenthal and Rod Gruendijk, the general manager, out to lunch and said, I got an idea. You've got a gallery in the lobby, but it's okay. Let me take it over and let me curate for the whole hotel and put our images everywhere. And I think it'd be really great. And they said, yeah.
So for those that, might not be familiar with the gallery, and they're coming to West Hollywood, what can they expect from coming in?
That's the other thing. The Morrison Hotel Gallery, we represent 125 photographers, and it's all music, photography, and entertainment.
So it's
cool. It was so in tune with the DNA of the hotel. And so people walk in, and not only is the decor of the hotel now, it's just all of our work and all of these photographers, amazing iconic images of all of these famous subjects. But the gallery's there, and so they kind of walk around, experience it all. It's part of an experience at the hotel.
I'm curious, the gallery in New York, is it located in a hotel?
It's not, although we're talking about it because it's been so successful at the West Hollywood, at the Sunset Marquis, in West Hollywood. I mean, you think about it. People come into the hotel, they see the gallery, they might not even know what it is. And then they walk around the hotel and they get this experience of all the imagery everywhere. And they're starting now to feel what the hotel is about. But you've got 2, 3, 4 days of people staying there to come back and forth and come into the gallery eventually. So you've got a few days to kind of get them excited about the work and to make a sale. Where in New York as a gallery, it's more a destination. People go there specifically, and it's a one stop. So if they're really looking to buy photography, they'll come into the gallery and purchase. But at the Marquis, you're
living with it every day, and you eventually are like, I have to have that in my house as well, right?
Yeah. And it's look, music is communication. Music is this human, emotional thing that happens, and it just resonates with us all. And the photographs that all of these photographers have taken is just an extension of that emotional reaction to the music, and you get to take it home. And
do you play music at your shoots?
At my shoots, yeah, of course.
Yeah. What do you? How do you choose what you play?
I mean, the early days we used to really make tapes for all the shoots so that it was unique.
Oh, I love that.
I remember there's a picture of mine actually at the Sunset Marquis of Ray Charles on the wall. The picture's on the wall at the Marquis of Ray Charles that I had taken, and I remember my assistant, we had made this music the night before just for Ray because we were such a fan. And we found all this obscure, really early Ray.
Oh, cool.
And we put it on and he just responded like crazy. It was like, oh, that's my guitar player from 1947 or whatever. You know, it was like a big deal to him and he reacted. And then that's the picture and it's so there in the picture.
Oh, I love that. I mean, again, it's like it really is tying in the photography with the music. I mean, it is.
Right.
It goes such...
And now it's Spotify or, you know, whatever. It's easy to make a playlist. So.
Well, yeah, it's easier than the...
But at the time, my assistant would stay up like all night making new tapes for the next day.
Back in the day.
Back in the day.
That's so cool. So, I mean, so naturally, I mean, your experiences are so cool and unique, especially to this area, to West Hollywood. And you get what it's all about, you know, certainly through your lens. But let's say you were describing it to somebody that hasn't been here before. What in your mind makes West Hollywood a unique destination?
Well, I'm all about history. So first there's the history that's here. It's this enclave. It's this little city within a huge city.
Sure.
It's a walking town. It's very diverse. There's just a lot of things that make you feel like you belong here, where the whole of LA makes you feel a little overwhelmed because it's just so huge.
Yeah.
And West Hollywood is a bit more compacted relative to the Hollywood experience. You know, I think there's specific places that are really, really important in this town. Some of the hotels, the restaurants, the location, the views. You know, the Sunset Strip is so unique. Again, I'm really into history, so I really understand all of its history. I studied it. I read it. It's my interest. So I have a real strong sense of what the city's about.
And it is really monumental when you sit back and you think about what's impacted and influenced our notion of pop culture and entertainment, and knowing that so much of it got started here.
Yeah.
I mean, that's rich, and to be able to touch it and still experience it. I mean, that's...
And the transition on the Sunset Strip from its elegance and glamour of the 30s and 40s, 50s even, into sort of the youth movement that changed in the 60s and sort of took over the Strip and then made it a completely different experience, yet still an important part of the city.
Oh, 100%.
You know? And so that's really interesting to me.
And then now today, I'm curious, your feelings about the Sunset Strip today.
Yes.
Because now it's kind of an interesting mix. We always talk about there being kind of this renaissance on Sunset with the luxury hotels, but still we have, you know, the Roxy and the whiskey.
Yeah, I think I think even if the whole corridor becomes something much more modern and something much more about today in terms of its real estate, in terms of its businesses, the Roxy, the whiskey, the Viper Room, they could still stay. They could still be a part of it. Look, everything changes. That's just life.
Evolves.
But yeah. You know, there's something else about West Hollywood that's so unique. You look forward to the Gay Pride Parade. You look forward to Halloween. You look like there's things that go on in this town.
Yeah.
On any given Thursday, Friday, Saturday night, if you're up at 10, 11, 12 o'clock at night, you drive down the Strip, you see there's something happening.
It's buzzing.
Yeah, and it's very different because, you know, people in LA go to bed early.
Yeah.
It's about being home, that kind of thing. But there's this whole other sort of nightlife that exists. And I'm not sure it exists as concentrated any place else in the city as it does on the Sunset Strip.
That's the key word, concentrated. Yeah. And it really is, because, I mean, there is so much buzz and life happening here. And it is this notion of come as yourself. There's something for everybody here, and I think it makes it a fun place to go out and be out about and meet other people.
Something for everybody thing is music. Just on the Strip, each club, each little venue has a completely different style of music, which is really interesting. You still have the Troubadour doing what it's done.
For so long. So, okay. Well,
made careers.
Yeah. Oh, and that's that's a huge thing. It's definitely where careers have gotten started.
If I may, I don't mean to interrupt you,
Please.
But there's also, as a photographer and as a curator and as a gallery owner, I'm so interested in it all, and I'm always looking for new things. And so I find imagery from photographers who may not have had the big career, but were there at the moment.
Yeah.
So they were at the Whiskey the first time the Doors played there, that kind of thing, and took pictures. And so I'm always trying to collect and find those images. And believe me, there's tons of it around still.
It's there.
Yeah.
And again, when you think about it too, that wasn't that long ago, but it is really fascinating to just kind of like see it come to life. So let's say you've got a friend coming into town. What's a must-see thing that they should do? I know. You can list a couple things.
I mean, everybody's got their own style.
Yeah,
to me,
this
it's
is true.
about, well, okay, I'll give you a really funny example, though. My sisters live on the East Coast, and they come to visit me once a year.
Sure.
And I don't let them stay at my house. I put them up in the hotel.
Okay.
Put them up at the Sunset
Understandable.
Marquee. But it's not just because I don't want them in my house. It's also like...
The experience of it.
they get to experience what goes on at the Marquee, and that is an experience. And I don't mean to dwell on the Sunset Marquee, but it is a big part of my life.
It's part of your
and it's a
history.
big part of West Hollywood's history as well. And the thing about it that makes it so unique, and why I even include my sisters there as part of it, is that it's a horizontal hotel. It's not a vertical hotel. And so there's these grounds, there's these gardens, there's this open air dining restaurant. The people that walk through it. You go to the hotels and you walk in the lobby and you go to your elevator and you go to your room. That's not the case at the Marquee. You're walking around all the time. And so you see people and you get a feeling for what goes on there and why people stay there repeatedly.
Yeah, I think that's why it's so surprising. West Hollywood is 2 square miles. It's such a small city. So,
Very compact.
naturally people assume it's such an urban oasis, which it is, of course, because we have that. But the Sunset Marquee is so unique because it's 3.5 acres right off the Sunset Strip. It's kind of crazy.
And most people that come say, I didn't know this was here.
Right.
A lot of people say that.
Yeah.
And it is, and I think it's also, once you're there and you're on the grounds, it also, people, their walls come down a bit. Because it's like, if you're here, I'm here. It's like there's this sense of camaraderie because it's like you're all in the know of this oasis. So it becomes this really special place.
Is that Julia Roberts over there having lunch? Is that
Exactly.
It's like that.
But that makes it so magical, and especially like if you were not based here, but even being based here, I think that's part of the magic of it as well. So you get to.
So to answer your question that I danced around, I mean, I'm a restaurant guy, so there's specific
that's
restaurants. I mean, Medeo's in town is really important for me. I like the hotels, and I like the Sunset Plaza for lunch or for dinner. Certainly the Marquee because it's such a great outdoor dining experience. I take people on a tour. I get in the hills. I drive around because most people from out of town have no idea what it's really like, and that really gives them a good sense of what Hollywood and West Hollywood in particular is.
And we really are right at the at the bottom of the hills, and so it's like to be able to drive up and see all the wonderful homes. I mean, it's again, the location is so perfect. Any hidden gems, like a place that, and it could even be like a recent place that you've discovered that you're just, or it's just one of your spots that when you've got maybe it's your family coming in town or something that you're like, I have to show you this.
I mean, I take them to Soho House only because you don't get a view like that anywhere
that
in
view
town.
is amazing.
So that's kind of really special. You can also kind of point things out because when you come here and you fly on an airplane and you start to land at LAX and you come over LA and you just go, oh my God, this is like the biggest place. Yes, it's so expansive. So once you get here, you can go up to a place like that and you go, oh, this is where Beverly Hills sits in relation to West Hollywood, and that's where downtown is, how far away it is, but yet it's still a part of this city.
It is, again, there is this special magic here just in the mix of everything.
There's Kuntz Hardware.
There you go, Kuntz Hardware.
Where do you find a hardware store like that?
But actually, you know what? That is a really great example because again, you're not thinking about a hardware store in the middle of West Hollywood, but people live here and we need it. And then you go in and it's floor to ceiling, everything. And so it's
rare.
It's rare.
But it is this small enclave in the midst of something much bigger, but yet it's all here. You got everything you want. And then of course there's Barney's Beanery and Hugo's that have been here forever. And those are great places.
So you've got a very different and unique perspective on this. I mean, it's also it's your life and you've lived here. So obviously when people want to travel, they want to have that sense of living here like a local.
Yeah. Again, it's accessible. I can only use my experience to give you.
No, that's what we want.
I would also, my base was the Sunset Marquee, so I would do photo shoots, and I'd have them come to my room, and we'd do hair and makeup in my room. But then there's an alley down off of La Cienega that I know about, and I just love the way the telephone poles, form this vortex down the alley, and I would, get an old car and bring it in there. So I know the city a little bit different than others because I'm always looking at it in a different way. It's not from a tourist mindset.
Yeah.
It's more from how can I use it visually and get everything that I need from it. I also ride my motorcycle around a lot, and so
I've heard about this motorcycle.
and
It's loud, huh?
Yeah, it's a little loud. Yeah, they don't like it. And I'm a runner, so like I run in the mornings, and you get to see and know things about when you're on the street in a different way than just in a car.
I think that's a really great point. I mean, we always talk about how West Hollywood is walkable, and nobody thinks about, like you talk about how expansive and horizontal the city is. Nobody walks in LA, right? But they do in West Hollywood.
Absolutely.
And, getting through the neighborhoods, I think, is what's so special, because you'll stumble across an interesting boutique that you can shop in, or an interesting coffee shop that you might stop into that you wouldn't see if you're just driving through. Yeah. And this is that kind of place where you can do that.
Sitting outside of a restaurant on Sunset Plaza is a really kind of great feeling. Sitting outside, like on the street, where I don't know if you do that in many other places in LA, maybe downtown, but where there's little neighborhoods maybe. But I don't know, there's a different feeling of doing that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, I know that we talked a lot about the Sunset Marquee, other favorite hotels, restaurants here that are just, I mean, there's so many that are part of the fabric of the city.
Yeah. People always said to me, because I was such a New Yorker, growing up there and everything, was, don't you feel, it's so different. It doesn't have the same excitement or the same thing, but everything is here. It's just, and then some. And then, of course, the weather, which is why we're all here.
It's all
Although
about.
This year it's been a little wet, but
we'll take it. It'll dry out.
It's fine. But it is. Again, it does have that mix of that big city, yet there is this accessibility factor. Yeah. And I, by the way, I love that you mentioned that going running in the neighborhood, because I mean, I'm always I too do that. And that is such a different way to see the city, that you might know about certain locations, and it's when you're on your feet and then you're like, oh, that's where this place is. Oh, that's great.
And especially in a city that's about a car. It's a car culture. So you're always in your car. In the summer, it's warm. You've got your air conditioning on. You've got your radio on. It's your office in LA because you spend so much time in it, and so you miss things.
Well, this has been so exciting.
I'm just curious, what's next for you, Tim?
Yes,
I mean, you've had
please
such,
tell us.
an iconic career, and you've shot so much. Is that, that just keeps coming, or what's
It just
next?
keeps coming. I mean, we're growing. The gallery's growing, so that's a big part of what I do. I've kind of taken on this role of like marketing and kind of a creative director, and so I direct the social media and the website and our newsletters and sort of the look or the vision for the company. So that's like a whole nother thing that I've kind of taken on. I'm still shooting, and that's really interesting for me, that I'm still relevant in some ways, and I try and keep myself relevant. So I'm working with artists who are much younger and doing different kinds of things. I'm really involved in digital technology now, and kind of involving myself in Web3. Working on a podcast that I think we're going to do around the imagery and the photographers through the gallery, and you sort of use the Sunset Marquee as its base. Documentary, kind of always building on my archive and career and all of that.
Well, it's really impressive, and we're really excited to have you here talking about not only West Hollywood, which is so important to us, and having more people internationally and domestically come and visit. I think you're a big reason why that continues to happen. So we'll make sure they get over to the Morrison Hotel Gallery.
Yeah, come visit us.
Absolutely.
Come to the hotel, because it's really an experience. Something else we do is these events there all the time, and those events, which are usually thematically related to an exhibition we have going on, whether it be hip hop or whether it be something like right now, it's the 50th anniversary of David Bowie's Aladdin Sane thing. So we're doing a big Aladdin or David Bowie thing this month. And we throw these parties, and people come to these parties. Like hundreds of people show up at the Sunset Marquee, and it's become an experience. People are like, well, when's your next one? And so then that's part of the hotel's experience. It's part of an experience we create, but it's also part of Hollywood, or West Hollywood.
And people can come to that?
Yeah, absolutely. It's open.
Yeah. Very cool. That's great.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously send out, an invite and stuff, but it's not like a VIP thing. It's open to the public.
Very cool.
Very neat. Oh, I love it. Well, this has been such a wonderful conversation. I mean, again, your breadth of work and and how it's related to West Hollywood, kind of bringing it to life. It's been so wonderful to get to talk to you and just hear all of your stories as well, too, and your insights. Through a different lens.
Thanks very much.
No pun intended.
No, you did, and it was good.
I did. I intended it. I know. Well, thanks for joining us.
My pleasure.